There's a lot of talk online right now, the Are Mormons Christians, and a lot of really terrible rhetoric. Obviously, the terrible attack happened on Sunday where someone attacked a Mormon church, and just absolutely atrocious. But I just think it's just wild how people are using that to be like, yeah, we should feel sorry, but at the same time, remember, Mormons aren't Christians. I think that's hilarious. Like, what are actually Christians? Because there are so many different walks of Christianity, and it seems like they disagree on everything, but the one thing that they all agree on is that Mormons are not Christians. So I wanted to offer my take as a Mormon. I claim the title of Mormon, the identity. I haven't gone to church in a while, but I grew up in the Mormon church. I'm here in Utah. There's a Mormon church right there. But it's my family. It's where I come from. It's my heritage. I absolutely will claim the Mormon identity because I think that Mormons understand more about the battle between good and evil and the battle for Christ in today's times than most Christians do. And that's because of the Book of Mormon. Now, the Book of Mormon, however it came about, I don't necessarily believe that there were gold plates. Maybe there were. I don't know. I do believe in the supernatural. There are supernatural phenomenon taking place in our time, in these modern ages. So who's to say that Joseph Smith didn't encounter some kind of supernatural entities or beings that helped him come up with the Book of Mormon? But for everything that it's not, the Book of Mormon details the battle for Christ that is happening in our nation and in the world right now better than any book of scripture that I know, the Bible included. Essentially, the Book of Mormon, it's the story of a civilization that came over from the old world, came to the new, and they were Christian, and there's battle between these two peoples in this land, and kind of the righteous, the Christians, they fight over time for democracy and freedom, and they have, churches established and Christian churches, and they're baptizing. And then they get ahead of themselves. They start to stumble in pride and wickedness, because they've been so righteous. God blesses them with all kinds of things. And, it's kind of it details this cycle of pride that we often see happen in the world, where when the people were righteous and at their peak, they started to get prideful in their hearts, right? And it was soon before the coming of Christ where they started to get very prideful. And right before Christ came, he came to this people. And I don't know that this is for sure. It could have been not even Christian. It could have been some other God that they were waiting for. I don't know. But right before Christ comes to this people, there's all kinds of chaos and calamities. And it was the secret combinations among these people that had them stumble and fall. And guys, isn't that the story of our nation, of the USA? We're this ragtag team of founding fathers that was inspired by freedom and that we all have innate divine rights as humans. And they fought for those, and against all odds, they won. And they built this amazing, vast empire that has become so vast and successful and prosperous that we've started to get a bit prideful. And now you see it, you know it, all kinds of corruption and secret combinations and scandals, all kinds of things that have gotten us to where we are right now. Not among everyone, but definitely among the ruling class, right? And we're right at this point and it's only going to get crazier with all this chaos that's happening, and there's going to be a lot more chaos. But we're right at this point when Christ is going to come again after all this chaos. And I don't know whether the resurrected Christ is going to come down from the sky. I think probably not. But I think the second coming is more like this Christ consciousness, or living from love rather than fear, comes into the heart of every man, woman, and child in the world. That's what I really believe the second coming is. but we're right on the precipice of that. And back to the question, are Mormons Christians? I mean, that's what it is. I believe that Mormons understand, because of what's written out in the Book of Mormon, this battle that's taking place in our nation right now, because it's the same story that was in the Book of Mormon. And you have to ask yourself, was Joseph Smith inspired to write this? Now, I don't know the full extent of what really happened. What did Joseph Smith see? Did he interact with some kind of extraterrestrial entities, maybe? I think probably. That's what I believe. But I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't totally know what happened. All I do know is that the story that he came up with or channeled from divinity lays out exactly what's happening right now. And Mormons are absolutely Christians. They believe in loving God, loving your neighbor, and forgiving 70 times 7. They believe in the Bible. The thing they get right that most Christians don't is that they believe in more scripture than just the Book of Mormon. Now, unfortunately, a lot of Mormons stop right at the Book of Mormon and a few other books of scripture that they have. I think scripture can be way more inclusive than that. I think movies can be scripture, and anything that's divinely inspired that shows this same, hero's journey that we all go through, or this battle between good and evil. It's all telling the same story that the Bible tells. I think many Christians stumble and they miss out on a lot when they feel like the Bible is the final source of authority and the final, if it's not in the Bible, it's not true. I think you cut yourself off at the knees spiritually when that's your take. I think it puts God into a box. If God is only found within the Bible, every religion contains some piece of the whole truth. At the end of the day, like every human, we all come from the same source. And if it was only one answer, like the Mormons are the only answer, or Christianity or Buddhism is the only answer, that would just leave confusion for everyone else. I think that everyone has things in their religion or in their spiritual truth that is not true, not how the universe actually works. But every religion, culture, way of life has some piece of truth to how the universe actually works. And we're going to see that over the next 100 years. I really think that something is happening in the world right now where people are starting to wake up and realize our shared humanity, and where all of these differences in culture and spirituality and religion, they're all going to be weaved together into a beautiful single thread where we finally have an actual understanding of how our universe works, how the spiritual world and universe works. Because there are things we don't know, and there are things that we're soon going to find out. And really, all of us needs to just wake up, ask hard questions, realize that you don't know everything. Realize that it is okay to ask questions, even the hard questions. We really do live in a Truman Show where a lot of the questions that we ask, they don't want us to be asking. Don't ask that. Don't ask about the aliens. Don't ask about the ETs. There's nothing to see here. But it's all going to come out. And I know I got a little bit sidetracked in this, but my point is Mormons are absolutely Christians. I consider myself a Christian and a Mormon. And mostly I'm just Ben. And if you're still watching this, I'm talking to you. If you're still watching this, I would love and appreciate if you would like and subscribe and maybe share this with someone. Because I have a lot more to say that I'll say in the coming days, and I would love for as many people as possible to hear it, because I know My message is one of unity, truth, waking up. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.